This video is sponsored by Connell Guides. To get your hands on the most intelligent study guides on the market for GCSE and A-level English literature, as well as GCSE and A-level history, visit connellguides.com and use code RS15 at checkout for 15% off your order.
The Capulet Ball scene comes from Act 1, Scene 5 of William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. But which annotations could we make for that scene? Let's find out. What's going on, Revision Squad? DystopiaJunkie here with another GCSE English Literature video for you. And in this one, we are going to annotate the Capulet Ball scene, which comes from Act 1, Scene 5 of William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. So in this video, I'm going to work through the Capulet Ball scene and provide 30 annotations for it, focusing on how it helps to create certain impressions about the play's characters, how it relates to the play's themes, and how it formally works as a piece of drama. As with my other annotation videos, I strongly suggest that you have a copy of the play in front of you, at least 3 different highlighters, and a pen to make notes with. This is the third of 8 annotation videos I have planned to make for Romeo and Juliet. If this, or the other 2 so far, have helped you out, please do let me know. You could drop this video a like, leave me a comment, share the video around with anybody else who might benefit from watching it, and you could, of course, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to my channel too. Alright then, let's get stuck into annotating that scene. So as I said in the video introduction, I'm going to be making annotations that relate to the play's characters, themes and form. In these annotation videos, when I say form, I mean how this extract functions as a piece of drama. That means I will focus on the extract's relation to the overall structure of the play, whether it uses any dramatic devices, what audience responses might be, and so on. Moreover, some annotations might relate to more than one category, so if you see something that is shaded in both blue and green, that is your cue to know that its comment is about how the extract relates to the play's characters and themes. That being said, I'm not actually going to annotate the portion of the scene you can see on screen now. Although this portion is useful because it shows the ball being set up, depicts Lord Capulet pretending to be the perfect host, and then transitions to Romeo catching a glimpse of Juliet, I'm not sure it's a part of the play that you can make exceptionally deep comments about. As such, let's move forwards. But you know what is important? Romeo's dialogue once he has properly seen Juliet for the first time. So in the top line here, Romeo's use of figurative language, which he uses to suggest that Juliet is brighter than bright, not only highlights Juliet's immense beauty, but it also emphasises the power of love, for the immediacy of Romeo's attraction to Juliet brings him to speak in hyperbole. Continuing with the imagery Romeo uses, the cliched light versus dark image he uses here could create the impression that he is a stereotypical Petrarchan lover. This is because his cliched love imagery sees him dote on Juliet in a way that was atypical for men in Shakespeare's time, but was very much normal for the Petrarchan lover figure. In fact, Romeo's presentation as a Petrarchan lover is reinforced by his use of hyperbole, for his claim that he has never seen beauty before, nor known love, is very overstated. I mean, wasn't he massively crushing on Rosaline only earlier on in the play? Thinking formally, we see that Romeo's dialogue is in fact a soliloquy. This is significant because soliloquies tend to reveal a character's innermost thoughts and desires. In other words, they tend to reveal the truth. This soliloquy therefore suggests that the feelings Romeo expresses in these lines are genuine. And last, the use of rhyming couplets throughout this soliloquy, and you will have to excuse my rather sloppy highlighting, evokes the theme of love and once again draws attention to Romeo's romantic feelings for Juliet, given that rhyming couplets are traditionally associated with love poetry. The scene shifts following Romeo's soliloquy, and rather than sticking with the romantic Montague, we are instead treated to an exchange held between Tybalt and Lord Capulet. To begin, this part of the scene reveals to us that Tybalt is a perceptive character. By recognising Romeo by his voice, and despite the fact that he is wearing an antique face, a phrase that acknowledges that he is wearing a mask at the ball and points to the play's dramatic form, we do indeed get the impression that Tybalt picks up on fine details. Next, Tybalt's command, "Fetch me my rapier, boy," shows that his social power allows him to be violent. By addressing a boy or manservant, we learn that Tybalt occupies a high social status. Tybalt exploits this status to instruct someone lower down the social hierarchy than him to go and fetch his sword, which he clearly wants to use to hurt Romeo. Third, the couplet at the end of Tybalt's lines here highlights the importance of family loyalty, for Tybalt's desire to defend family honour overrides social etiquette. It would have been poor form for Tybalt to start a fight at a party, but he does not seem to care about this because he wants to fight his family's bitter enemy. Now, Lord Capulet and Tybalt have differing reactions to Romeo's identity in this short exchange. Because Tybalt calls Romeo a villain, we see that Tybalt is an aggressive character because he only sees Romeo as a bitter enemy he detests. Whereas Lord Capulet's emphasis of Romeo's younger age suggests that the Capulet patriarch observes social hierarchies, which age would influence with elders being superior to their younger counterparts, above all else, thus implying that he is an authoritative character who cares most about where he stands in society, especially in relation to other people. Now, sticking with Lord Capulet, when he reveals that Verona brags of Romeo, we learn that Romeo is held in high esteem in his hometown. And last, Lord Capulet's authority is apparent in how he commands Tybalt and uses declarative phrases. Now, the relationship between commands and authority should be apparent, but declarative phrases also relate to authority because they suggest that Lord Capulet's mind is made up and that he cannot be swayed whatsoever. Continuing, Tybalt and Lord Capulet have a slight disagreement about whether Tybalt is going to fight Romeo or not. Despite Lord Capulet insisting that Tybalt will not start a fight, Tybalt states, "I'll not endure him." The strong modal verb, will, hidden in this line, reveals that Tybalt is a defiant character. He is, in a sense, a rebellious teenager. And Tybalt's rebelliousness causes Lord Capulet to double down on his authoritativeness. In these lines of dialogue, we see him repeatedly use imperatives or commands, and we also see him use a rhetorical question. When he asks, "Am I the master here or you?" he uses a rhetorical question to remind Tybalt of the power imbalance that exists between the two characters in an attempt to get Tybalt to do as he is told. Now, Lord Capulet then suggests that Tybalt is hot-tempered and impetuous when he calls him a saucy boy only moments later. And last, Tybalt's dialogue here suggests that being peaceful and showing restraint is completely unnatural for him. This impression is particularly evoked by the phrase "makes my flesh tremble," for it shows that Tybalt has an actual bodily reaction, and one that reveals disturbance and discomfort too, to having to be peaceful. After Tybalt withdraws, Romeo and Juliet properly meet for the first time. Now, the first 14 lines of this short extract are a sonnet. Now, these lines as a whole relate to the play's characters, themes and form, and so it might be a pretty important part of the play. Now, because Romeo and Juliet share a sonnet, a type of poetry associated with love of course, we get the impression that they have immediately fallen in love. Moreover, their love appears to intensify as the sonnet progresses, because whereas they have their own quatrains to begin with, they share the closing sestet, and in particular the closing couplet. To me, that shows their love growing stronger and stronger because they are able to finish off each other's romantic sentiments. Next, the religious language apparent throughout this mini extract, and there's more examples than I've highlighted here, suggests that Romeo and Juliet are devoted to each other romantically, given the associations of religious faith and devotion. Now, when Romeo refers to his lips as blushing pilgrims, this could create two different impressions. On the one hand, blushing could suggest that Romeo is shy, whereas this line could also present him as being flirtatious because it sees him bring attention to the colour of his lips, thus indicating that he would quite like to kiss Juliet. Now, when Juliet refers to the holy palmer's kiss, this could imply that she is somewhat mature. This is because by ridiculing Romeo's figurative language and suggesting that they should hold hands rather than kiss, she is teasing him. And teasing is, of course, a form of flirting. A little later on in this short extract, Romeo's line, "Thus from my lips by yours my sin is purged," contains what you could call a hidden stage direction, because it suggests that he and Juliet have kissed or that they are about to. Juliet is then presented as dominant when she tells Romeo to kiss him again. And later again still, her dialogue implies that Romeo is romantically inexperienced. If he kisses by the book, she suggests that Romeo only knows about romance from stories rather than actually knowing about it in practice. This could suggest that Romeo is in fact immature. The scene changes with the nurse's arrival. Her first line of dialogue shows how family interrupts and overpowers romantic love at this part of the play. This reinforces one of the play's central tensions, of course. Next, when the nurse speaks about Lady Capulet, we learn that she is a loyal employee because she praises her mistress with the terms good, wise, and virtuous. And third, when Romeo asks who Juliet's mother is, and asks whether Juliet is a Capulet, we learn that Romeo is ignorant about Juliet's true identity. This may relate to the theme of fate, because Romeo appears to have been destined to fall in love with Juliet, despite not really knowing who she actually is. Everybody leaves the stage apart from Juliet and her nurse. Now, the sequence of questions and answers that open this mini extract show that Juliet is the dominant person in her relationship with the nurse. This is because she is dictating their topic of conversation and is trying to get information out of her. After the questions have finished, we see that Juliet is authoritative because she commands the nurse to go and find out Romeo's identity. And in the next line, Shakespeare employs dramatic irony. When Juliet says that her grave is like to be her wedding bed, Shakespeare alludes to the play's ending, which the audience are already aware of thanks to the prologue. This dramatic irony might cause the audience to laugh because they are all too aware of the accuracy of Juliet's statement. Next, Juliet highlights the power of love when she says that she must love a loathed enemy. This line creates the impression that she almost feels forced to desire Romeo and that she cannot control her feelings for him. And last of all, in this closing exchange between the two characters, we see that Juliet might already have started to become more mature. This is because she lies to the nurse, who is not only her closest ally at the start of the play, but is also a character who represents and is a reminder of Juliet's childhood. By putting some distance between herself and her childhood then, we see that Juliet no longer desires to be considered a young girl. And with that annotation made, I reckon that's 30 annotations in total for the Capulet Ball scene. Thank you so much for watching. I really do hope that this video has helped you out as you study or revise Shakespeare's play. If I have managed to do that, please do let me know. You could give this video a like, leave a comment on it, share it around with anybody else who might benefit from watching it, and you could of course subscribe to my channel too if you haven't done so already. Before I finish recording then, all that there is left for me to say is that I hope that you have an awesome rest of the day. If you are studying or revising, please remember to take frequent short breaks, as a burned out student is not a happy or successful student, which is what I think you deserve to be. So it turns out that there is absolutely loads of things that you could say about the Capulet Ball scene. You could talk about how Romeo's soliloquy shows that he does immediately and genuinely love Juliet. You could talk about how it shows Lord Capulet to be authoritative and shows Tybalt to be aggressive. You could say that the shared sonnet shows how Romeo and Juliet both love each other immediately. Or you could say how Juliet lies to her nurse right at the end of the scene show that she is becoming increasingly mature as she rejects a reminder of her childhood.